Hello and welcome to another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations on New Comic Book Day, the second week in our new location. Not sure if this is the shop that we're going to leave set up.
Yeah.
But it worked okay last week.
Yeah.
So we'll keep tweaking just like we do here in the store. The fixtures kind of keep moving around and the displays keep getting updated. But, you know, that's how it is when you're settling into a new space. You got to figure out, exactly how everything works best, and we'll probably be doing that for years. But one thing that is a constant is we keep reading comic books.
Oh, yes.
And there keep being a lot of good ones. And this week, again, we had a hard time narrowing it down, but let's get started with your pick.
Yeah, so my pick, oldie but a goodie, we've got Transformers issue 20. And so the last issue was kind of like a little interlude issue between like the two arcs, where it was kind of like getting into like more of like what makes this universe's Megatron tick, like kind of because we just haven't really spent a lot of time with him because of reasons. But so this kind of picks back up in the present. Megatron is back. Spoiler alert. I don't know. It's been a couple months. If you haven't read it, I don't know where you've been. But yeah, he's back, and he's definitely reminding all the Decepticons why he's in charge.
Yes.
Like there's a couple good beatdowns he delivers in here just to really like make people remember that like I'm in charge, I'm the strongest. Do not expect me to show you any kind of mercy.
Right, yeah. Also, he's been through the ringer, so probably not in a great mindset.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's just like that kind of like the underlying thing that's more terrifying about this is like this is Megatron like down an arm and half blind, and he's still like just like easily top dog for them. So like
he's got very pirate-like.
Actually, yeah, but it was like I can't remember, is it Laserbeak or Buzzsaw that's on his shoulder?
I think it's Laserbeak.
Yeah, but yeah, no. Now that you mention, yeah, he does kind of have a pirate thing going. Well, yeah, so he's back. Obviously, the Autobots are terrified of that because their entire time on Earth has frankly not been going well for them, and this is basically like the worst case scenario now. So they're trying to shore up defenses. There's some surprising faces that might show up. And
you know, in most iterations of Transformers, it's easy to think like, oh, that would be so cool to have Autobots as friends. In this one, I would not want to be the Autobot squishy friend.
No. and there's some talk about that in there too, like some like things that have happened recently with some of the humans, both ones on their side and not on their side. There's this fun little moment early on with this military chaplain where just like, oh, that's an interesting thing going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some, if you're a longtime Transformers person, there's some familiar faces that show up. And the way that they're doing them, it's very interesting. I'm not sure if I've ever seen this take done with them, but it's like one I really like.
Sure.
And I can see what they maybe are going with like another character who's just kind of like skulking in the background right now. And I'll be curious to see what they do with that. You get some more stuff on Cybertron. We get to spend a little more time with Shredhead, the new character they introduced.
Super cool.
Yeah, no, like they're like, and it's interesting because like they're like new themselves to this universe. Like they're like still kind of like finding their way through things. Like, and Cliff Jumper's there to help and everything. But yeah, it's very much the calm before the storm. And next issue, I can only imagine like how terrifying things are going to get for everyone. Like it's not going to be a fun time for anyone except like Megatron. Like he's the only one who seems, him and Soundwave are the only ones who like, yeah, things are going great right now. But
those two do tend to be on the same page, different iterations.
Yeah,
so.
But no, I mean this book continues to be fantastic. I'm super sad on the one hand because I think technically this is Johnson's last arc on the book, because I believe he said he was only going to be around to like issue 24, and this arc is going to end around that. On the other hand, we know from the Free Comic Book Day issue, which we've still got, I believe we still got copies of.
Yeah, we've still got a handful of them.
And then they've also got this week
a special reprinting.
That we've got on the shelf that teases coming this fall, the Quintesson War, which presumably will tie in at least like Transformers and Void Rivals.
And hopefully answer some of the Quintesson questions that have, inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, so I don't know. This book is very much a roller coaster of emotions, both in terms of like what's on the page and just kind of like knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
But the one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't disappoint. So
yeah, absolutely. The whole universe has been just astonishing.
yes. But speaking of universes that are fun, but maybe a bit newer.
Yeah, so I went with Image's new Exquisite Corpses, #1. So Tinyan, I think is how everybody has landed on that one. The Tiny Onion.
Yeah.
I guess publishing name or brand or whatever. Which I think that's an onion. Is it an onion?
Yep.
Yeah. James Tynion has a new book out, and of course it's twisted. So this book, I really wanted to be surprised by it, so I barely read any of the little teasers for it. But the aesthetic for it looked really cool.
Because it's Michael Walsh on the art.
Yes,
right?
Michael Walsh on the art, and
of Silver Coin fame for those who are interested.
That's right. And they've got a really good vibe together. So this book is kind of, it's like The Purge meets, you know how in Wonder Woman, in the Tom King run, it started with there's this secret royal family that's really been running America, and democracy's just kind of window dressing to keep the masses in line. Similar kind of concept here, only the idea is that the 13 original colonies were each, they were all just given this, they took over as royalty and given each colony to rule, and then and the European royalty, I guess the idea being like, this is too much work, we'll just give it over to them. So from the founding of the colonies, that's kind of where it's been. And in order to keep order, they decided that there would be a contest every year, and the winner of that contest, it rules the entire country for that year. And I'm thinking, maybe I missed it in here, but that whichever party was in power that year doesn't stay in power, because there's only 12 contestants.
Which, I mean, it would make sense, I think.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because each of the colonies, they're kind of stereotype person is kind of, who's running things. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. And then, you've got these massive power dynamics between like New York and Rhode Island. Yeah. So it's really interesting. So the purge part of it is they've got to go out and hire killers. They shut down a town Halloween every year for this contest, and they hire these killers, and the killers have to go in and some of them are just going straight up for body count because they know that they're probably not going to win, so they just do side bets instead, and others are going for the win. So this issue is very thick. You are definitely getting your, I'm guessing, $4.99 worth on this book, because it's like twice a regular comic. Yeah. But there's a lot of introduction. So we're introduced to the town to begin with, and some of the players there in town, and then we're also watching as there's a person who's setting up the festivities for the leaders of the colonies to watch the events, and then also as they're turning in their cards. So they're each given a card, or they each draw a card, and on the card is the weapon that their avatar uses for violence. So they each turn in their card, and then that's kind of where we're at. Now we're at the end of this issue. We're going to sit down and watch how things unfold. So it's interesting because they each of the people that are recruited and chosen to do these things, and they're recruited, most of them are psychopaths. Some of them are just, hired killers and what have you. But they all have personalities. And a lot of that has to do with either, their psychotic past, or it might have something to do with the state that they're representing. So it was really interesting. So a lot of colorful flair. It was fun. I kind of, as I was reading this, I was kind of getting some like Kung Fu Hustle kind of vibes.
Interesting.
Not necessarily in the way that it was written or drawn, but just because. Just style-wise, there's just
and just like all these kind of like weird individuals coming together.
Precisely, yeah, and or like the Warriors, but instead of having these gangs that all have these weird personalities, you've got these individual killers that show up, or Twisted Metal, something kind of along those lines.
That, yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. It was one of those where it's like Tiny uses, I would say, kind of a moderate heavy amount of dialogue. Like definitely the characters are driving who's the narrative and what's happening, whereas like Kirkman does pretty light on dialogue, kind of really slims things down. This still read quickly with the amount of dialogue that was in there. So yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed it, and I know that he's got quite a bit of a following, and this book in particular had a lot of buzz coming into it. So,
well, because if I remember correctly, part of the plan for this book and part of why it's like so thick and like introducing all these things is that they're potentially considering like doing like their own little kind of like shared universe for it, where there's like other spin-offs. Which,
I could absolutely see
there's a lot there to mine, so I could easily see them doing like maybe like, oh, we'll focus on this specific character, or maybe we'll do like, oh, here's like a prior event for like these kind of foils.
Definitely, especially when if you've read any of his previous stuff, some of these killers definitely have interesting backstories. Yeah. There's a dude in a mascot costume that is a bunny.
Of course.
And they pulled the hands card, which means this guy's got to strangle people to death. And they show just kind of the intro image is this cartoon bunny strangling somebody.
Well, and I saw, I flipped through it a bit yesterday. There's some other ones, like there's one guy that's just basically like a strong man, like.
Yeah, with the big hammer and, twirled mustache.
Yeah.
And, there's a bunch of cool stuff. And the killers are going to kind of seem to revolve around, there's an ex-military guy who's being heavily recruited and is turning the recruiters away. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then we've got a couple they're a teenage couple that are trying to figure out what they're going to do on Halloween. And one is the extrovert and one's the introvert.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be kind of our connection to the town. And then, there's the town weirdo who believes all the internet, sludge and drudgery and what have you. So, they're going to be sort of proven right, but not because they actually knew anything, just because they happen to be. It's going to be really fun. I'm interested to see where this goes. So anyway, all right. Well, let's move on to our consensus pick, and this would be a surprise to absolutely nobody.
I see what you did there.
Yep.
Absolute Batman issue 8, and so kind of similar to the previous issue. This is kind of like a in between, like dealing with the fallout of the previous arc and getting us kind of set for the next arc, while introducing probably the scariest version of Mr. Freeze I think we've ever
terrifying
seen. Like there's a couple like instances in particular, like there's a fight scene and he's just like, it's almost like watching a xenomorph like skitter across like a wall. Like like he is scary.
It felt like there was a longer break between this issue and the last one. Because there were 5 Wednesdays last month?
Yeah, I think it might have been that, but yeah.
I forgot how much of a cliffhanger we were dropped off on, and how much I wanted to see where they were going to go with Mr. Freeze. It's terrifying. It's such an interesting take on it. I love this concept of, I'm going to try to preserve myself for, the future when things are better or when they can cure me. And, you're not asleep in the ice. you're just experiencing horrific pain and conscious the entire time. And how twisted would that be? Because he was a kid when his parents put him in there, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing here. So, like, we get, like, a lot of the broad strokes of, like, how this version of him came to be, but, like, it's not, like, we don't get quite everything yet. And those little gaps are where, like, it gets really interesting. I think the mailman might be here.
Oh, cool.
Oh. Sorry, I saw this guy try to get in. It's like, oh no, he's got packages. But yeah, no, and I don't know, it's very, especially like the way this kind of ends and like how he seems to be involved with some of like the other like ongoing stuff. It's like, it really does just drive home like how dangerous a lot of these like characters are to Batman in this world.
Yeah.
Just like, and just like how like more different and like twisted, like it. Because you think like, oh, how do you like make these like characters like more like extra in a way? And Snyder's finding a way to do it. Like, I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it.
Yeah, well, and you know, it turns out Scott Snyder's really good at Batman.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would have guessed that. But so one of the things that early on when this, God, we're already up to issue 8. It's crazy to think about. But when Absolute Batman had launched and people were starting to kind of give their feedback to it, one thing that I heard somebody say as a criticism was, oh, well, like, you know, it looks like Batman can do anything, and now he doesn't even have his wealth or any of that. Like, they have him be too good. It's too much. I have found that to be the opposite of what's happening here. And it's not that, I mean, Bruce is in over his head.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. A single person cannot take on a very powerful crime syndicate, a whole bunch of psychopaths running around town, and now crazy, superpowered isn't quite the right word, but I don't know.
Well, like,
over the top frozen villain,
because that's the thing, because like in the
a monster, he's really a monster.
Yeah, because that's the thing in the first arc, like the Animal Party and the Black Mask and everything, like they were dangerous, but they were just like people at the end of the day.
Yeah, for the most part, it was the volume of encounters that he was having.
And this is something like just truly inhuman, and like I really enjoy one of the things in this series, like not that this Bruce is like dumb by any means, like he's clearly smart, he can like do a bunch of like smart stuff, but like the areas in which he tends to like really like excel and succeed against the villains has been when he can just be like a blunt instrument against them.
Right.
And anytime it's just like, oh no, like they are just like outmaneuvering him, he's like kind of like backed into a corner of like, what do I do now? Like,
yeah, well, and he also, those situations where he's able to kind of dictate the terms. So he's got a plan, he goes into it, he executes the plan. Sometimes even makes it kind of look like he's not doing well, and then, you know, he flips the switch and has, something else in the works that changes the tide. Here, he's just in over his head.
Yeah. And the way that they like go about addressing that with his relationship with like all of his friends is which that was one of the interesting things they did when they started this series. Is just like, oh, a bunch of like characters that are normally like part of his rogues gallery, like Waylon Jones, Edward Nygma, Harvey Dent, like they're like just his like normal everyday friends here. Like they're not like supervillains, they're just like people. And how this book is able to like use that to like really establish like Bruce as being like this, in a lot of ways, still like normal guy who like has a normal life with all these people around him who care about him and like are like, dude, what are you doing right now? Is like one of the things I was not expecting from this book was easily becoming one of my favorite parts of it. Like and just again like the whole way Marcus Martin does the art again for this issue, and the whole like silhouette thing they do for the flashbacks is so well done, and the way that they kind of like pay that off at the end is so good.
Yeah, it was really nice. I liked it. In fact, the first issue that he did, it was a little jarring because, we'd been 6 issues in.
Yeah, it's a bit different from Dragona's usual stuff, but like I still feel like it's still very like in line with like this world that they've created.
With this one, it seemed seamless because I'd already adjusted to it, and again, Mr. Freeze is just so terrifying in it that you're just buying into it. And we get frozen zombies. That was cool too.
That was great. Speaking of terrifying, they have shown off. So like the next arc is going to be Batman primarily dealing with this universe's version of Bane, and some of this art they've shown off is like Oh man, they just are going to make everyone like scary as hell here, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like every villain so far for him has just been like horrifying.
Yeah,
like even Black Mask, like the weird like bulbous head thing that they had going is just like they're making them like just like more monstrous in a way that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I've really been liking how, you know, the Absolute Universe in particular, I think we talked about this before. It's like having a mix board, and it's all the same elements. They're just kind of turning some up and turning others down. So it still feels like, you know, the core of the character is still there, and the point of calling it a Batman book is still there. But you're able to, by emphasizing other parts that typically aren't where they place that, it makes it fresh and interesting.
Yeah. And like, and it's interesting to see like the different ways each book addresses, because like each book, a big part of it's just like, oh, what if the superhero, but they're kind of more the underdog character, the different ways that they go about doing that. But then also a similar thing with the villains, like we were talking about here, like what happens when they're just like more, like what, like because we got a bit of that last week with like Brainiac, where he's just like, like it's just like ramping up these certain like elements of him to really drive home like both that like there's like kind of like a person in there, but he's also like more of a monster's in there too. Like the
Who would
way
have known the scariest Brainiac is Janitor Brainiac.
But like I just really appreciate how each book in their own way is like doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to keep doing it. I know they've got some like plans coming this fall potentially. Nothing like super big, I don't think, but like kind of like the first like real like kind of like threads really starting to interconnect between some of the books.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how they do that with some of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's kind of also, you know, the temptation to dive into any of these universes where they're doing a new spin on everybody and they're starting from scratch is you've got this clean slate. So it's not so built up where they've got all these relationships and all this pastime and massive team rosters and, you know, this big long history that you've got to deal with. So it's going to be really fun to see how now all these separate books that have been going for almost a year on their own are going to start interconnecting and what kind of a world they're going to build when Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and all the rest start meeting each other. And yeah, it's going to be super cool.
Yeah. Also on that note, we still, I believe, still have copies of the Free Comic Book Day DC special, which does kind of hint at where some of that stuff might be going, which has a twist in there that I did not see coming. With some characters I definitely did not see coming, but like in a way we're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to see what happens here. Like it's one of those things. Like again, like very rarely can a comic surprise me anymore, and this one did so in like a very fun way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what else did we like, Patrick.
Well, I could have easily gone with Battle Beast. So they're calling it, what is the actual official title?
Invincible Universe.
Invincible Universe Battle Beast. Yeah, so it's under I.
Yeah, which makes it such a pain to look up on the computer.
Yeah.
But you know what's not a pain? Reading it.
No, it was super fun. Lots of eyeballs popping out of sockets in this one. So you've got... The Wonder team from Invincible back together again, doing an amazing book. It is, you know, we were just talking earlier about how Kirkman's kind of a streamlined storyteller. This gives you a lot of information without having to read a whole lot. You know, not that, you know, it's just done efficiently.
Yeah.
The artwork is beautiful. The coloring is fantastic on it. I love, you know, the Invincible universe just leans heavily into that kind of classic superhero, bright colors, a lot of vibrant action, a lot of blood, you know, so it was a ton of fun. Honestly, the only reason that I didn't put it up here, not that, you know, Exquisite Corpses wasn't great, but because it just didn't need promotion at all. I underordered. If you're looking to get this one, get in quick. I ordered a ton. I definitely underordered.
Yeah, so if you want your copy, definitely like come and get it when you can.
Hurry in, or hop on the app and purchase it. Have it waiting for you.
Oh yeah. But I don't know. For me, I really enjoyed. They just started a new Supergirl book for their whole summer Superman, which I believe the trailer drops. The new trailer drops today. Probably dropped while we're doing this video.
Oh man, really good. Yeah, I like the first one, but it doesn't really tell us much.
Yeah, but the new Supergirl book. So it's written and drawn by Sophie Campbell. I believe the thing that she's done most recently, she was on the main Turtles book over at IDW for a while there.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah, and God, I forget because like she doesn't do too much, but when she does, like her art, man, is just some of my favorite out there.
Still a lot of variant covers, does a bit of that. But just a really solidly drawn book all the way through.
Oh yeah, and it's a lot of like kind of like getting you like just her whole current status quo like established of like how like what she's doing with like stuff with Candor, what she's doing with like kind of like her civilian life. Crypto's there, so that's always good.
Yeah.
It's there's like an interesting twist that's going on, like hey, like why are like people excited about Supergirl in my hometown? Like what's going on with that? And the mystery of that is going to be like, okay, well yeah, what is going on here?
I've got some theories, but there's so little to go on that I'm obviously going to be wrong. But there seems to be maybe a slight bit of reality bending, possibly.
Yeah, or like some like there's something, and I'm definitely curious to see where they go with it because I don't know. It's been. I'm trying to remember when's the last time there was a Supergirl book. It's been a hot minute. I think Woman of Tomorrow was the last time.
Wow, is that really? Because I almost said that, and then I was like, that can't be, because that was years ago.
Yeah, I mean, because like she's been like regularly appearing in most of the other like super books for a while now. But yeah, I think that was the last time she had her own solo book.
Wow.
Which also, I believe they just wrapped shooting for the movie
that
for that.
That's going to be a good story arc for that, depending on how closely they stick to it. But.
I mean, they got Lobo in there now, so we'll see how that affects it.
Yeah. I think you mean Aquaman, don't you? Yeah, well, it was another amazing week. The wall's going to look a little different. Like we said, we're still trying to figure out exactly how all these fixtures and displays are going to work. So when you get in, don't be too surprised, but it's still full of great books, and it was a good sized week this week. Yeah. That's the other thing we're trying to figure out is how we fit all these releases out every week. Tons of good variant covers, all kinds of good stuff. So if you haven't been to the new shop yet, be sure to stop down. We're 1 block south of where we had been before. Our new address is 731 South Front Street. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment, share. Apparently, we've got somebody in Sweden watching us now. That's pretty cool.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, we're international. Yeah,
should we like fly them out to have them check out the store?
I'd rather go to Sweden than have them come here.
Actually, yes. No, I was. Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Someone pay for our tickets to Sweden, please.
Should we start a GoFundMe? Yeah. Well, it would give us plenty of time to read more comic books, for sure, because it would be a long flight. But we'll read more comic books for you, so that next week we're back with more Pulp Picks. Until then, you enjoy your reading. Well, should we see what the mailman delivered?
Oh, yes. Let's